Welcome to Edupedia World Grade 10 Computer Science Video Lecture Series. I am Upeka Vandibona, and from this episode we are going to discuss about the selection statements in C++. In programs, as in life, we often have to select among alternatives. In C++, that is done using either an if statement or a switch statement. We first take the if statement. The simplest form of selection is an if statement, which selects between two alternatives. Take a look at this program. Here we have two int values, a and b, and from this in we are trying to capture two values for the a and b. And in the if statement, we are checking whether a is lesser than b, which means b is the higher value. If so, we are going to output b as the highest value among a and b. In this cout statement, it will print out max, the value of the a, comma, value of the b is the value of the b. If it is not, which means a is the highest value, it output a as the highest value. Max, the value of the a, comma, value of the b is value of the a. Let's try to execute this program. Now I am going to input two integer values as it says 56 space 34. The first number 56 is the value of the a, and 34, the second number, is the value of the b. 56 is the highest number. That means a is the highest number. Therefore, this should be goes through the else part. Therefore, the cout statement in the else part should be outputted. Let's press enter, and you can see it says max 56 and 34 is 56, which means the a, the value of the a. That means the else part. An if statement chooses between two alternatives. If its condition is true, the statements in the if block would be executed. Otherwise, the statement in the else block would be executed. To make this more simple, I'll relate this to a traffic light story. To cross the street at a traffic light, you had to wait for the light to turn green. If the traffic light is green, go, and if the traffic light is red, wait. In C++, that is become something like this. If within the condition traffic light is equal to green, then you can execute the statement go. But if traffic light is equal to red, then you have to execute the statement wait. Now consider this program. It's a centimeter-inch conversion program. If you enter a centimeter value, it will convert into an inch value. If you enter an inch value, it will convert into a centimeter value. This is the constant factor centimeter per inch, which is 2.54. Now in this double variable, we capture the length. In this char, we capture the unit. In the cout, it says please enter a length followed by a unit. Now the character C means it's a centimeter value. The character I represent it's an inch value. In the cin, it captures the length and the unit. If the unit is I, which means it's an inch value, then it will output the centimeter value. If it is not, that means if it is a centimeter value, then it will convert into an inch value. Now let's try to execute this program. Please enter a length followed by a unit. Let's enter 2.54 centimeters. Now 2.54 centimeters means it's a 1 inch. Let's press the enter. You can see it's a 1 inch. So our program is correct. So likewise, if you enter an inch value, it will convert into a centimeter value. If you enter a centimeter value, it will convert into an inch value. Even though we got the expected output from the program, there is something wrong with this program. This program always assumes that the user enters a proper input. The condition unit I, it only checks for the unit I. It never checks for the unit C or something else, because it always expects the user will input either C or either I. If it is I, it will goes into the if block. If it is C, it will goes into the else block. Now what if the user enters the 15F, considering it's a feet value? Now in this program, we only did the calculations for the centimeters and inch, not for the feet values. But anyway, that feet value also goes into the else block, which we keep aside for the centimeter to inch conversion. So it's a not good thing to be happened. We have to avoid entering another values except centimeters and inch. It's a good practice to always test our program with bad inputs, such like entering feet values in here, because someone will eventually, accidentally or intentionally enter bad inputs. A program should behave sensibly even if the user don't. So how could we improve this program? We can do something like this. We should check else if and whether the unit is equal to C. So now we have a calculation for the centimeter values. Now in here we have to enter another else block as saying if it is not either I or C, then it will output sorry, I don't know a unit code, that unit that we don't know. So this is our program. Now let's try to execute this program. Okay, now I'm going to input a feet value. Now it says sorry, I don't know a unit called F. Now we have learned two forms of if statements. The first one is the more general form, that is if followed by an expression in parentheses, followed by a statement, followed by an else, followed by a statement. It has only two blocks, if block and the else block. If you want a more complex if statement, then you can include a else if block. And remember, in a if statement, it can only include one if block, one else block and many else if blocks. So now I hope you got the idea on how to write if statements in C++ language. Now we are moving on to switch statements. Actually, the comparison of unit to I and to C is an example of the most common form of selection, a selection based on comparison of a value against several constants. Take a look at this program. We have rewrote the previous program, the unit conversion program, using a switch statement. These are the same code lines and the changes happen from here. This is our switch statement. It takes the unit value, which means this variable, the unit, and checks using these cases whether the unit is I or whether the unit is C or something else. By default, it means something else rather than this case or this case. Now for the I, it do the calculations for the inch to centimeter conversions. If it is C, it do the conversion of centimeters to inch. If it is something else rather than I or C, it says, sorry, I don't know a unit called the value of the unit. It is the same thing that we did using if-else statement. Now let's try to execute this program and see what would happen. I'm going to say 1 inch and I'll expect the value 2.54 centimeters. Let's see by pressing the enter key, and I got the output 2.54 centimeters. The switch statement syntax is archaic but still clearer than nested if statements, especially when we compare against many constants. The value presented in parentheses after the switch is compared to a set of constants. Each constant is presented as a part of a case label. If the value equals the constant in a case label, the statement for that case is chosen. Each case is terminated by a break. If the value doesn't match any of the case labels, the statement identified by the default label is chosen. You don't have to provide a default, but it is a good idea to do so unless you are absolutely certain that you have listed every alternative. If you don't already know, programming will teach you that it's hard to be absolutely certain and right about anything. Now here are some technical details about switch statements. The first one, the value on which we switch must be of an integer, char or enumeration type. In a later episode, we will talk about what is called enumeration type. In particular, you cannot switch on a string. So remember, don't put string values in case labels. The values in the case labels must be constant expressions. In particular, you cannot use a variable in a case label. The third one, you cannot use the same value for two case labels. The fourth one, you can use several case labels for a single case. The last one, don't forget to end each case with a break. Unfortunately, the compiler probably won't warn you if you forget. Okay, now here I'm going to show you a few code examples and you have to tell me what is the wrong with them. Here is the first program. We have a string variable called s, and from the user input we are capturing a value for it, and we put that into a switch statement. From the case labels, we are checking with the string values, and that's where it goes wrong. The value must be of an integer, char or an enumeration type. To select based on a string, you have to use an if statement or a map. We later talk about what is called map. Until that, you can go on with the if statements. Here is the second program. There we got a int variable with the int value of the character y, and then we got two constants, char n and char m. Char n got the value character n, and the char m got the value the question mark character. And also we got another variable char a, and we are capturing a value from the user. And we input that into a switch statement and checking it with few case labels. The first case label is the constant char n, so it's okay. But the second case label is the variable y. We can have constants, but we cannot have variables. So here we got the error because it has the variable y. The third case label is the constant m, and that's okay. The fourth one, character n. Now we can have the character n, but as we got the first case label as the constant n, which have the value character n, there we got two duplicates of the character n. So we get an error having duplicates. A switch statement generates optimized code for comparing against a set of constants. For larger set of constants, this typically yields more efficient code than a collection of if statements. However, this means that the case label values must be constants and distinct. Now here is another bad example. What is missing in here? Yes, the break statement is missing in each case block. The most common error with switch statement is to forget to terminate a case with a break. When you missed a break, all the case blocks below to the relevant case block would be executed. Often you want the same action for a set of values in a switch. It would be tedious to repeat the action, so you can label a single action by a set of case labels. Take a look at this code example. In this switch statement, for the values 0, 2, 4, 6 and 8, it will do the same action by printing out is even. For the values 1, 3, 5, 7 and 9, it will do the same action by printing out the is odd. For anything else, for the values except these values, it will print out is not a digit. So that's all about selection statements. Here we looked at if statements and switch statements. From the next episode we are talking about iteration statements. Let's see what type of iteration statements are there in the C++. So stay tuned on with Edupedia World, and thank you for watching.